would like to talk about the scamper technique. I'm just showing you what is there in the system, and then I change to a presentation. Well, basically, what you've heard from others is more an inspirational technique for the first part, and what Coral has presented is more a methodology than just a method. But so it kind of, so several of the methods that we have here will probably be used in such a Scamper day, in such a Delphi day, which she developed. But basically, Delphi per se is seeking consensus. So if you would just do it like researchers do it sometimes to explore issues, then you would probably start with presenting people with knowledge that is already there, and then they would have to develop something based upon this. So you won't get so creative ideas as they got, and they got creative ideas because they mixed it with other methods. So that's that. I think that's a very good example to show what you need to consider depending on what you want to get. Right? With Delphi, you can also just get expert consensus, but nothing new. But I think you really brilliantly organized this process. The Scamper technique is a technique which we are using in the combination phase. So in the first divergent phase, what you need for Scamper is you need already methods. So it's saying here it's a systematic brainstorming, but it's not a brainstorming in the sense of an inspiration exercise or an association exercise. It's more kind of developing further what is already there. And Scamper actually stands for the terms, you see it here: substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to other uses, eliminate, reverse, and rearrange. And now I'm stopping to show you this page, and I'm going to the presentation rather. Do you no? I first need to really stop. Because there you see the template that I usually use for Scamper. Yeah. So here you see the template. That's what I usually then, after they have developed first ideas and associated ideas, I would give my students a template like this with a lot of empty space around that, around these names, and I would say, okay, you have now, I don't know, invented the flying house. Now think about what could substitute the flying house. Of course, it can be an airplane, or it could be a balloon, but it could also be, I don't know, if we grow humans some wings, that would substitute the flying house, right? Then humans could also fly themselves. Or combining it would mean maybe there is another idea with which they can combine it. Or adapting is also easy. I think put to other use is very interesting in the case of the flying house. So the question is, what else can I use this for? So for example, as cargo, or as a home for all the birds that usually nest at my house, and I don't know, I always have to make sure that all their shit doesn't remain at my window. Maybe they would be happy to live in a flying house, right? Then there's rearrange and eliminate. That's more about some elements of the idea. So what can I, for example, eliminate in this house? Maybe it doesn't need windows because I'm not going to look outside anyway. Or maybe it doesn't need heating because it's warm in the stratosphere anyway. So there you would rather eliminate some elements And in modify is also nice. There are some underlying questions to this one, which ask, for example, how would it look if you make it very small, or how would it look if you make it very big? So what would that do to the original idea? And through this, you kind of develop the ideas that you already have, that are already in a relatively mature form, again in an iterative step, creatively further, or you specify them. It depends on the type of class that you have. Some classes, particularly engineering classes, are rather prone to specify stuff and not to start with something new. So it might be that you just end up with, I don't know, colored windows or something. There are sometimes exceptional classes that really then take the challenge of creating something different.
You still have sound? No?
No, no.
No, Patricia, we cannot hear you at the moment, and your screen is frozen. Are you still with us?
And then
oh, you're back now. Good.
Yeah,
you were gone for half a minute. Okay.
Okay. So I think in the last half a minute I was saying you need to be so usually you will just get specifications. Sometimes you will get completely new ideas, and you need to be prepared to this. If they would imagine humans flying and then think there's a need to look into how can we grow wings for humans or something like this, then you would have to have a kind of a time buffer. Or be prepared to take this idea up in one of the next lessons and allow them to elaborate on this. So that's the risk with this method, but it happens very rarely that people come up with really new ideas that they really want to explore further. Just that be prepared for this. I think that's what I wanted to say about this method. Usually I give my student groups something like 20 minutes to think about this. And then they have to pitch their best idea. But that then already goes into the evaluation. What I've also done for you is this year, because we talked about all the process, all the creativity process. And here you see, here's the scamper, right? So I would use two methods for this. And this is about the workshop which we have done with the Megatrends and Technological Innovation class here at SDU, and it took 2 hours. So now, as I have added Scamper, you could give it another 30 minutes, but it wouldn't take longer. And you see at the beginning and at the end, I put some exercises into brackets because they're not exactly part of the creativity process, but I already talked about the importance of uploading. So allowing people to write down the ideas that they already have and about reflecting about the process. So we also used some methods for this, but I mean, you're teachers, so I'm sure that you're prepared for stuff like that. But just to give you an example, in this process, we started with the ABC method, and all these methods, they are all on the CHET platform. The ABC method actually asks from the participants, you give them a term, and then they have to associate to each of the letters of the alphabet and another term. So if I would say, I don't know, platform, then you would have to find a word with A that is about platforms. So for example, adaptive. It doesn't really matter what it is. You just give them very short time. so that they cannot really think and that they really act on intuition. So they have to find 26 terms that relate to this. And then what we have done, and this is also kind of important, and you have also seen this in the method Coral has presented, or in the process, you always do something with the stuff that has been developed before. So here we kind of gave every participant 3 words, and then they had to take these 3 words to the next exercise. And the next exercise was a very tweaked morphological box, where they then had to put these words into a sentence, or you can also make, so for example, story writing. You can give them these 3 words and they have to write a story about the future, like Coral. I think you also work with future stories. So it can be one of those methods, and there you already kind of focus on the question that has been there. So these were not completely open. These were already somehow directed into developing or associating ideas that have to do something with the topic, right? Then we had a breathing exercise, and then for the combination we used 2 methods. So there was, am I again unstable? It's saying here the internet connection is unstable.
No, it's going well right now.
Okay. So flower is actually, you can use the flower method quite well. It kind of looks like a flower. You can also turn it into a template if you're working with students who like square things a bit more. But you can also make it like real as a template, like flowers which have leaves, and then you have to specify for each of the leaves a question. So for example, who are the actors involved in these scenarios where these ideas will be implemented? What are they doing? And why is this important? So you can define this yourself. And then you have kind of scenarios that are developed, and then you can use Scamper on these scenarios and say, okay, now let's use another round of iterative thinking and think about how can we do this differently? What can we add? How can we make it maybe even more exciting? And in the end, we use Dotmocracy as an opportunity to give the participants a voice and say, this idea I like most, and we usually give them more than one dot. So we usually give them 3 dots in different colors, and then they can say red is the idea I loved most. I don't know. Yellow is the idea I think is most realistic, and green is what I think is the craziest idea. So this is, and you have seen we have started with something. We have started with something very open, and then we always took parts from the exercise before to the next exercise. And that's the kind of fit that usually helps in those processes. That's what I wanted to say. I don't know, Marian and Max, whether you have anything to add to this.
Oh, quite a holistic picture you drew.